Mr. President.
Senator from Oklahoma. Sorry.
First of all, let me associate myself with the remarks of the senator from Iowa. It's so important to all of us, particularly those of us who have had occasion to serve, to really pay attention to what's going on. This is the Military Appreciation Month, and it's very significant what's going on. We should every month should be Military Appreciation Month. As the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee and as a veteran, it's kind of my great honor and responsibility to support our warfighters during and after their service. Whenever they were needed, they were there. And so we've got to do it. We got to do a better job in supporting them. We went through 8 years of not adequately supporting the military. And it's something that many of them are suffering from now. Now, next week, as it was pointed out, we're going to do the Defense Authorization Bill. You know, it's not very often you can stand here and say, we're going to introduce a bill, and we know it's going to pass. And the reason we know it's going to pass because it's passed for the last 54 years. So this one's going to pass. I can remember a few years that we actually had to go into September to get the Defense Authorization Bill actually passed. Now, in the event it got to the end of December, which the same thing would be true this coming year, then we would have hazard pay that wouldn't be paid. We'd have flight pay that wouldn't be paid. There would not be adequate funding to take care of any of that. So we can't let that happen, and we're not going to let it happen. I'm a little confused now because while we're going to do, a month from today, we will actually mark that bill up in the United States Senate. And yet the House isn't going to do it, it's my understanding, until the middle of January. And then I also heard that they may, over in the House, actually do the appropriation bill first. Well, if you do the appropriation bill before you do the bill that we'll be marking up, the NDAA, then there's no reason to even do the NDAA from the House perspective. So we do know that it's good things are going to happen. We're going to be implementing the National Defense Strategy. We've talked about the National Defense Strategy several times here on the floor, and on how we've done, I think, a very good job in putting together this. And, you know, most importantly, we're supporting our all-volunteer force. It happened to be, I was one of them. I may be the last person in the Senate Armed Services Committee who still believes in compulsory service. I often wonder what would happen in my life if I hadn't been drafted. I always remember coming back at Christmas time, and Eisenhower was president, and I was enrolled in the University of Mexico, and I looked in the mailbox, and there was a card. It was from the president, and I thought, how nice of the president to remember me at Christmas time. It was my draft notice. So that changed my plans, and I often wonder where I'd be today if I hadn't had that experience. So anyway, we are going to provide the armed forces with adequate funding, and I hope we can find a budget solution. We can't do it with a continuing resolution. We've asked all of our leaders in committee hearings what would happen to us if we did a continuing resolution, and it just wouldn't work, and I think we all realize that. Puts us, people who are budget hawks like me and military hawks, in a very awkward situation, because we have a situation where, as a result of the 8 years of Obama, we have a thing called parity, so that you can't, for every dollar you put in the military, there's going to have to be a dollar that'll go into the non-defense programs. And this is something that doesn't work. So the continuing resolution, we all know, is something that should not be an option. The responsibility that carries great weight now, we ask our men and women in uniform to do more in the face and more in dangerous and unpredictable world than at any time. And I think the Trump administration is right. They try to categorize our two threats that are out there, one being the threat of the rogue nations that are out there, and we're talking about North Korea and some of these nations. At the same time, we also have the major threat of the great power threat. Now, this is one that we face. We know that, yes, we're used to dealing with the threats of the rogue nations, but after the 8 years of the Obama administration, we watched Russia and China forge ahead of us in many areas. Hypersonics is a good example, and that's something that is taking place now. So during that period of time, during the last 5 years of the Obama administration, the amount of money that we had to run our military with was reduced by almost 25%. Now, we've made up a lot of this in fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19 through thanks to the Trump administration. We have increased that funding back up to $700 billion, then again $716 billion, and this time I think we're going to be at $750 billion. Now, there's some dispute as to what the exact figure will be, but nonetheless, we're starting to rebuild it. And so we'll be modernizing our force, including our nuclear arsenal, now in order to maintain our military superiority, or to regain is a better word than maintain, because we have actually lost some of our superiority. And well, into the future, and our armed forces have long been the best in the world, but we have problems now in trying to rebuild, and that's what this is all about. So we'll support our troops and their families who sacrifice a great deal to protect our nation. This includes making meaningful reforms to privatize on-base housing. We went through this housing trauma just the other day. We found out a lot of people are not being treated properly. A lot of the spouses of our members and our members are living in housing that is totally unacceptable. But we came to that realization, and we're correcting that now. And that's going to be corrected even further in the Defense Authorization Bill that we will pass, that will mark up a week from today. So we want to thank every man and woman who ever put on a uniform, and those that were doing this in defense of the country. Congratulate them, pay particular attention to them, and support them in every way that we can. The fabric of our nation is stronger because of you guys in uniform and those who have been in uniform, and will endure for the years to come because of your service. So God bless all you guys.